Greetings and welcome back to the No Channel. This is Bernadette Johnson. I'm also known as Keziah or Kizzy. And today I'm coming to you with another video titled The Death of Pope Francis and His Spiritual Meaning. Now, if you follow me on Facebook, you've seen that I said that I was going to do a video where I would explain the spiritual meaning of the Pope's passing. So that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm sure all of you heard by now that Pope Francis has passed away. He passed away early this morning. And I'm going to, and I'm sure others, you've seen other YouTube content creators make, their videos talking about the passing away of Pope Francis. So I'm going to be doing mine tonight. So this is just a, when he was born and when he died, of course. This is just a picture of him when he was a boy. And he was born in, Pope Francis, he was born in on December 17th, 1936 in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And he died April the 21st, which is today, 2025 in the Vatican City. So this is I just want to show when he born and, of course, when he passed away. Now, this Pope Francis, he was the first Latin American pontiff who ministered with a charming, humble style. This is what this article says about him. And Pope Francis was known as the People's Pope. As I was watching the news today, and you had different ones calling him, he was a People's Pope. He was the People's Pope. Why was he called the People's Pope? Well, he was called a People's Pope because he connected well with the common people, with the common man. And also, he connected with those who were down and out, those who were considered, the lower ranking members of society. And he was very humble. He was very down to earth. This is how they described him. And he was very, charismatic and charming. And I mean, if you observe him and you will see his demeanor, he came across as that, kind, grandfatherly type, very warm and very friendly. That's how he came across. And the people just loved him. And there are a lot of sad people in the world now because, their beloved Pope has passed away because he was different from the previous popes, because also when he was more liberal than the popes who were before him too. He was more liberal concerning the alphabet community and also other marginalized groups. He was more welcoming towards them, and that's why the people loved him. And also, of course, he died today, which is Monday, April the 21st. And of course, this is right after Easter Sunday. Now, of course, Easter, of course, a lot of people who celebrate Easter, they related to, the bunny rabbits and eggs. But of course, Easter is not about bunny rabbits and eggs. And when I'm talking about Easter in this instance, I'm talking more about the resurrection part of Easter, which is the resurrection of the Messiah, who the Christians call Jesus, but I call him Yeshua. So this was a time, the Christians honor the resurrection. And it shouldn't be ignored that the Pope died so soon after Easter, after the resurrection. And I would like for you to keep resurrection in mind, because you're going to see it again, nearing the end of this video. Okay, so let's continue. So, of course, it was later reported that Pope Francis died from a stroke and heart failure. This is according to the Vatican. And of course, this shouldn't come as a surprise because the man was well up in age. That he, to have died of a stroke and heart failure, that shouldn't come as a surprise. Now, if you follow me on Facebook and saw the video that I put up this morning on Facebook, you would have heard that I said that I mentioned the Pope in these two videos I did maybe a couple of months ago. A couple of months ago. The first one on Trump on Crystal Mangum's confession, the spiritual roots of the Black woman versus white patriarchy. And then the other one where I discussed is on my discussion on the Sibyls, the ancient African prophetesses. And you can find both of these videos on my YouTube channel, on this channel. So if you haven't watched them already. So I mentioned the Pope in these two videos. And I'm going to go into detail, exactly what I was talking concerning the Pope in these videos. Now, here is a quote from the book, The Sibyls. Now, if you haven't watched the videos that I just had on the screen, well, this is a quote from the book that I did the commentary on, titled The Sibyls, the First Prophetess of Mami Wata, the Theft of African Prophecy by the Catholic Church. And this was written by Mama Zopi. And I strongly recommend you get this book if you don't have it already, because it is very eye-opening. So as we talk about the Pope, as I read this quote, I want you to remember, the Pope. Okay, so this is on page 5, the Roman numeral 5 of this book. And here it goes. Africans, Black Buddhists, Umbrians, and Black Etruscans, etc., erected civilization in what is now Italy. Thousands of years before the Anglo-Romans arrived, those are the Europeans, the white Europeans, what is now called the seat of the Vatican in Italy was originally the sacerdotal seat of the ancient Black Sibyls. And if you don't know what Sibyls mean, Sibyls means prophetesses. And these are Black African prophetesses of the ancient times. As the first established sacerdotal African matriarchs, the Sibyls' cultural and religious impact was arguably the most profound on ancient civilization that modern history has ever revealed or cared to admit. From Mesopotamia to Libya, Mitzrayim, that's Kemet or Egypt, Ionia, Manoah, Peloponnese, which is Turkey, and Mycenae, which is Greece, and later Rome. The Sibyls were the primary divine Vatican and absolute moral authority. So to sum it all up, the original rulers of the Vatican were Black women, Black female prophetesses. They sat on the very seat that the Pope sat on. So that is why, if you haven't watched, the two videos that I just had on the screen, I mentioned this in those two videos. So you're going to understand why I'm including this in this video. But yes, believe it or not, the Vatican was once ruled by specifically African women, African prophetesses. Let's continue. This is another quote. The Roman Church began to emerge as the imperialist inquisitory power. They then exploited and plagiarized the Sibyl prophecies, and usurped their sacred rights and Vatican seat of divine power in Italy. They credited their prophetic works to obscure white males whom they labeled as prophets and saints. So the words, the sacred words and prophetic words of these sibyls, as I said, they were prophetesses. When the Anglo-Romans took over, when the Anglo-Romans overthrew these sibyls, they took these sibyls' prophecies and applied it to themselves. Because, of course, the Vatican is ruled by white men now. And and this book also goes on to say that a lot of these prophecies that we read in the scriptures were actually the prophecies of these sibyls. And if these sibyls were African women, and the Bible is really an African book, well, then of course it should come as a surprise that it should be hard to believe, brother, that a lot of the prophecies in the scriptures were taken from the sibyls if the Bible is Black history. So this can be found on page 11. And this is the third quote I want to read, the last quote I want to read from this book. The Roman Church, in its imperialist designs, attempted or plotted to control all of the African continent. This hostile climate, aided by the church's financial backing, helped to create an atmosphere for chattel slavery and the ultimate colonization of all of Africa in the New World. And if you research, you will see that the Roman Catholic Church had a big hand in the transatlantic slave trade, chattel slavery, and the colonizing of the African continent. So all of this is going to be relevant as I make this video about the Pope passing away. This is all going to be relevant. Okay, so now as I told you that how the Anglo-Romans overthrew these sibyls who were the original rulers of the Vatican. So if these sibyls were primarily women, of course you had priests and priestesses. So you had your male priests or your prophets and your prophetesses. But the main seat of authority was with the sibyls. These were the prophetesses, even though you had your male priests too. So you think about it. Now, this, what I have on the screen here, this is another one of my videos that I did recently on the gender paradigm shift and its impact on man and woman relationships. Now, of course, I don't mention anything about Rome and the Vatican in this particular video, but the reason I'm showing you this video is showing you that there is a shift taking place. There's a gender paradigm shift taking place on this earth. And you think about it with the Vatican, the Pope passing away. Pope, if you look up Pope, the etymology, is father. And if you think about it, that Vatican was once ruled by the sibyls, which are women, it was once matriarchal. So it went from matriarchal to patriarchal. But as you know, things always have to come full circle. So is it going to go back to being matriarchal? So that's the reason why I'm showing this video here. And I also encourage you to check out this video. As I said, I don't talk about the Vatican in this one, but this is about the paradigm shift that's taking place, where in some of our videos, if you watch them, I talk about how things are shifting from a divine masculine to a divine feminine. This is what I discuss in this particular video. However, when one has authority, they don't willingly give it up. But as we all know, things are shifting on this earth. And those who've been in power for centuries I believe they can feel that they're losing power. They're losing their grip. And they are doing things to try to stay in power. And I'll show you, maybe this is something that they did to try to stay in power. Let's go to the next slide. Now, if you watched the two videos I mentioned where I talked about Crystal Mangum and the Black woman versus white patriarchy, and also in the Sibyls, I presented this slide in both of those videos where I talk about the Pope, and this was around Christmas time, where the Pope and the Vatican, they were to open some spiritual doors, sacred portals, holy doors. And this was something that the Pope and the Vatican do every 25 years. This is a ritual that they perform every 25 years during the Jubilee years. And I guess they do it for, revival, for hope and things like that. And they perform this ritual every 25 years. Well, it just so happens that 2025 was that Jubilee year. And the Pope opened these so-called spiritual portals, these sacred portals, starting New Year's Eve. And I did a video where I mentioned that. However, in those previous videos, I talk about how he did something that was unprecedented. And I had said that he opened 5 doors instead of the usual 4. However, while getting ready for this video, I read where that was actually misinformation. It wasn't that he opened 5 portal doors which was something he'd never done before. What he had never done before was to open a holy door at a prison. And this article, which was more recent, said Pope opens holy door at a prison for the first time ever. So as far as open the 5 doors, they're saying, yes, the popes have opened 5 doors before, but this is the first time a pope has opened a prison door for the first time. And this was what Pope Francis wanted to do. Now, they're saying that the 5 doors, that was misinformation. But a lot of times, the earlier, articles you may read, and they may say something. And even people on social media, they can put out misinformation. So I'm not going to say that that wasn't misinformation. That probably was misinformation. But this particular Pope did do something that was unprecedented. And that was he opened the door of a prison for the first time. So if any of you have any spiritual understanding behind that, why did he open the door to a prison for the first time? I'm not sure, but this was something that he did that was unprecedented. And then here are another article said, is the Pope actually opening 5 portals to other worlds on Christmas Eve? And now this article was, I think it was addressing, information. And they said, firstly, the spiritual portals are actually just doors. So actually these doors are just ordinary doors, but these are just doors that the Pope and the Vatican select to open for, special spiritual reasons. And so here's another one. It says he opens a holy door inaugurating the 2025 Jubilee. So this makes me wonder, for him to want to open a prison door for the first time ever, why? Now that what I had said in the previous video was about opening 5 doors instead of the original 4, that may not be true, but yet he did do something that was never done before. He opened a door to a prison. So opening the door to a prison, was this their way to try and hang on to power? That's something to think about. And I know also when I first heard about it, because I was watching a YouTuber that I watch regularly, and she talked about the Pope opening these sacred portals. And she was saying, and it was those in the comments were saying about, what's the reason for these opening these doors? And now I'm not sure if she mentioned it, but I know it was another YouTuber that had said that the Pope is opening 5 doors instead of the 4. I'm not sure if this YouTuber that I mentioned, if she said that, but I know she had said something to make it look like the Pope was doing something unprecedented. And it was announced, I believe it was announced in that video, that they would be doing a fast and a prayer around that time, around Christmas Eve, that time, to try and bind whatever the Vatican was trying to do. If they were trying to, do something to hold on to power, or if they were trying to unleash something, against the Most High's chosen people, to keep us in the defeated state that we're in, to keep, the Most High's people under the spell that they're in, and were they doing something unprecedented to try and do something in that order. And it was a call for us to fast and pray to bind whatever they were trying to unleash. And I remember fasting and praying around that time, because I believe I had already decided to fast and pray around that time. And I remember praying that whatever the Vatican is trying to do, bind it, hinder it, whatever they're trying to do. I remember that during that time, a number of us fasted and prayed regarding the opening of those portals, because it was something about the opening of those portals that disturbed us. And I believe that was the Most High moving us to fast and pray to bind whatever they were trying to unleash. Now, let's continue. Keep that in mind. Now, as I said, it was around the first portal. See, it was over a matter of days and weeks that the Pope would open these 5 portals. He didn't open the 5 portals all at once. It was over a matter of days and weeks. So the first door he opened, it was on Christmas Eve, and it went into early January, continued into early January. He opened the last portal sometime in early January. So keep that time in mind. Christmas Eve, early January. And us praying that the Most High bind whatever they were trying to unleash. So as I showed you these articles, for about them opening the portal, so you can go and check out the articles for yourself. Now, what happened shortly after these so-called sacred portals were opened by Pope Francis? After that, you had Pope Francis suffering a string of mishaps and misfortunes. Now, this article here was dated January 16th, where the Pope Francis injures arm after falling at the Vatican. As I said, He opened the first portal Christmas Eve, December the 24th. And the last one was in early January. This is mid-January. Hear this article. Now, this article doesn't have a date, but I'm thinking it was either early February or January 2. Now here where the Pope, he stumbles, he doesn't fall, but he stumbles. But a voice falling when the cane snaps. So he stumbled and his cane snapped. And thinking about that, the cane is something you lean on, and it snapped. I see something behind that too. You leaning on something, you resting on something, and it snaps underneath you. That's something to think about too. I believe that symbolized something too. Something he was leaning on snaps. And then it wasn't long after that, in March, he was hospitalized. And he was hospitalized for almost a month with double pneumonia. And you know that was being widely reported in the news. And then this was in March 26th. Pope Francis' doctor reveals harrowing details of hospitalization, including 2 near-death scares. So I'm thinking this was when he was, after he was released from the hospital. But think about it. How so soon after opening those 5 portals, and in doing something unprecedented, where he opened a door to one of the prisons in Rome. And was this an attempt to try and do something unprecedented to hold on to the power that they feel is slipping away? It makes you go, And then to see that he suffered these mishaps, suffered these misfortunes so soon after opening those 5 sacred portals. But see, people can dismiss it and say, oh, well, this man was old. He was 88. People may dismiss it. But then you think about opening these 5 sacred portals. This is every 25 years. This is not every year. This is every 25 years. And is it a coincidence that this man suffered these mishaps and passes away around 4 months after opening these so-called portals, sacred portals? No, I do not believe it. I do not believe that it was a coincidence. There is something spiritual behind this. And this is showing that the power dynamic is shifting. And it's shifting. You're going to soon see where it's going to shift back to those who once had it, those who was usurped. You're going to start seeing some strange things taking place. And with this Pope passing away, symbolizes this shift taking place. So I just want you all to keep your spiritual eyes open as you think about who once ruled the Vatican and how things are happening. And also I want to mention about this opening of these sacred portals. According to some articles, this tradition started in the 1300s AD, and some say 1400s AD. So this was, when the Anglo-Romans were in power. So that they established this tradition and they performed this so-called every 25 year opening these sacred portals to maintain that, to stay in power. So was this something this is a ceremony they carried out to stay in power. This makes you think, why did they start this tradition? Now, I have a couple of more things I want to show you. Now, I said to keep resurrection in mind. Now, as you know, the Pope died. He was 88 years old when he passed away. And a lot of you know that 8 is a very special number. So in numerology, the number 8 is associated. This is why this little AI screenshot. So the number 8 is associated with the material plane and karmic balance. So it's associated with karma, suggesting that actions have consequences and that individuals are rewarded for their efforts. But think about it. Actions have consequences. And this is just a Chinese culture. It talks about a Chinese culture. The number 8 is considered a lucky number, with some associating it with wealth and prosperity. This is this last one here. The number 8 is also used in biblical numerology to represent a new beginning and resurrection, as seen in the example of Noah and his family in the ark. I told you to keep resurrection in mind, because you will see it again, and here it is. Easter, resurrection, 8 associated with resurrection, and a new beginning. So is this symbolizing out with the old and in with the new? Because I'm going to tell you all, I've been seeing the number 8 quite a bit too. It was like late last year. I've been seeing the number 8 in certain things, in my life. I've been seeing that number 8. And I believe that it means something. So yes, new beginning. Is this 88? The Pope passing away at 88? Is this showing that there's going to be a new beginning? And he passed away so soon after Easter, resurrection. All of this have meaning. It all has meaning. And this is the final thing I would like to show you. Now, I don't know if all of you heard of ley lines. Now, here's a definition of ley lines according to Britannica. Ley lines, invisible lines that, according to pseudo-scientific and New Age thought, join significant landmarks across the world. New Age believers in ley lines sometimes consider them to hold sacred powers. The concept was first proposed by English amateur archaeologist and photographer Alfred Watkins in the early 20th century. Stonehenge, the pyramids of Giza, the Machu Picchu, and the Ayers Rock, Uluru, are some of the landmarks posited as connected by ley lines. While the validity of ley lines is not accepted by academic archaeologists, followers of the New Age religious movement and others with interest in various paranormal theories contend that ley lines connect important sites across the globe and possess sacred energies that are particularly potent at the line's intersection. Now, I didn't hear anything about ley lines until I came into, the spiritual walk, where I learned that I was an Israelite in my ancestry and all of that. That's when I learned about ley lines, and that certain like the world wonders of the world and certain world attractions, people believe that those are special spots. So that made me think about the Vatican. And I'm wondering, is the Vatican one of these spots? Also another sacred spots, Jerusalem, Israel. And I'll venture to even say Mecca. You think about these regions, these areas, these landmarks that draw a lot of attention, that people maybe have fought over for centuries to possess, such as the land of Israel. and areas that people are drawn to, that attract so many tourists, every year. That makes me wonder if the Vatican is one of those places, is one of those ley line places, and why the Sibyls were usurped for that seat. Is there a special kind of energy with that region? Just like with Israel, I believe that the land of Israel has a special energy, because you think about it, that region, there's been wars going on for thousands, of years in that region. Those places have a certain kind of energy. And this makes me think that the Vatican is one of such places. I don't have any proof about this. This is just me speculating. So with this last point I'm making, this is strictly speculation, and this is just me giving you something to think about. So that's all I had. So I said that I was going to make a video, talk about the spiritual, meaning behind the Pope's passing. And this is not personally about Pope Francis. No, this is about that position. This is about that seat. So this is not so much about him. No, this is about that seat, the Vatican, and what it represents. And with him passing away so soon after opening those sacred portals, symbolizing that there is going to be a new beginning, and there's going to be an out with the old and in with the new. Him passing away at 88. 8, new beginning, resurrection. Because you think about the resurrection, how the Messiah, Jesus, Yeshua, him being in the tomb those 3 days, it was like that was defeat. It was like the evil won. But then when he resurrected, he had the victory. So him, the Pope, passing away so soon after Easter, so soon after the, time of the resurrection, is all spiritual. So I'm asking you all to just keep your spiritual eyes open, because things are really starting to get interesting. So that's all I have. And I just pray that you all continue to be blessed. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.